In a world where love often hides behind masks of fear and uncertainty, two women are about to discover that the heart recognizes its match before the mind even catches up. Maya, a passionate artist drowning in midnight blues and silver dreams, has built walls around her heart as carefully as she frames her paintings. Sophia, a night shift nurse who saves lives in the darkness while her own soul yearns for light, walks through Maya's gallery door on a rain-soaked Thursday and changes everything. This is the story of two women who thought they knew what love looked like, until they looked into each other's eyes and realized they'd been painting with only half the colors on the palette. Sometimes destiny doesn't knock its storms in shaking rain from vintage leather and stops your heart with a single glance at your most vulnerable creation. The rain hammered against the gallery windows like an impatient lover, and Maya Chen found herself grateful for the distraction. She'd been staring at her latest painting for 3 hours, second-guessing every brushstroke, every decision that had led her to create something so raw, so desperately honest that it made her chest tight just looking at it. Restless dreams hung on the far wall, a swirling tempest of midnight blues and silver that seemed to move even in stillness. It was her insomnia made manifest. Every sleepless night of the past 6 months poured onto canvas in violent, beautiful strokes. Maya had painted it during one of her 3 a.m. sessions, when the world felt thin enough to slip through and her emotions ran too close to the surface. The bell above the door chimed, cutting through her brooding like a knife through silk. Maya looked up, expecting to see Mrs. Patterson, her elderly regular who always came in before storms to keep the art company. Instead, she saw a woman she'd never met before, shaking droplets from a burgundy beret that had done little to protect her dark curls from the downpour. The stranger wore a vintage leather jacket that had seen better decades, faded jeans with paint stains that weren't Maya's, and boots that suggested she walked through life rather than around it. But it wasn't her clothes that made Maya's breath catch. It was the way she moved through the space, like she belonged there, like she'd been looking for this exact gallery her entire life. Without a word of greeting, without even acknowledging Maya's presence, the woman walked directly to Restless Dreams. She stopped 3 feet away from it, close enough that Maya could see her shoulders rise and fall with a deep breath, close enough to notice the way her hands trembled slightly at her sides. "That one," the stranger said, her voice carrying an accent Maya couldn't place but wanted to hear again. "It's exactly how I feel every night." Maya found herself abandoning her position behind the counter, drawn forward by something magnetic in the woman's tone. There was a vulnerability there that matched the rawness of her own art, a recognition that made her skin tingle with possibility. "You have trouble sleeping too?" Maya asked, stopping beside her. The woman turned, and Maya felt the world reorganize itself around this moment. Her eyes were dark brown with flecks of gold that caught the gallery's soft lighting, and when she smiled, it was like sunrise after the longest night. "I'm Sophia," she said, extending a paint-stained hand, "and you've just shown me something I didn't know I was looking for." 3 weeks passed like scenes from a movie Maya never knew she wanted to star in. Sophia became a regular presence at the gallery, stopping by between her shifts at Metropolitan General Hospital, where she worked as a night nurse in the cardiac unit. She'd arrive with terrible coffee from the hospital, vending machine, and stories about saving lives. While the rest of the world slept, Maya learned that Sophia had grown up in Portland, moved to the city 5 years ago for a job that turned into a calling, and spent her weekends volunteering at the animal shelter 3 blocks away. She discovered that Sophia collected vintage books, made pancakes that could convert atheists, and had been searching for art that spoke to her soul ever since she'd walked away from a relationship that had left her feeling like a ghost of herself. "I was with someone for 3 years," Sophia had confided one afternoon, perched on the stool behind Maya's counter, while Maya worked on a new piece. "Sarah, we lived together, talked about marriage, the whole domestic dream, but I realized I was performing happiness instead of feeling it." Maya's brush had paused mid. "What changed? I woke up one morning and looked at her sleeping next to me, and I felt ... nothing. Not anger, not love, just this hollow emptiness where my heart should have been." Sophia had taken a sip of her terrible coffee, making a face that made Maya laugh despite the serious conversation. "That's when I knew I had to leave. You can't build a life on nothing." Now, Maya found herself painting at different hours, creating during the day so she could text Sophia photos of her progress. She started leaving her phone on loud, just in case Sophia needed to talk during one of her long night shifts. She bought a decent coffee machine and learned that Sophia took her coffee black but her emotions raw and honest. The turning point came on a Tuesday evening when Sophia showed up at the gallery 10 minutes before closing, still in her scrubs, exhaustion written in the set of her shoulders. "Rough night?" Maya asked, automatically moving to lock the door behind her. "Lost someone," Sophia said simply. 73-year-old man who came in with chest pains, had pictures of his grandchildren in his wallet and a wedding ring worn thin from 60 years of marriage. "We worked on him for 2 hours." Maya had never known what to say in moments like these. But something about Sophia's presence made the words flow naturally. "Tell me about him." So Sophia did. She talked about Mr. Henderson's kind eyes, how he'd thanked every nurse and doctor even while struggling to breathe, how his wife had held his hand until the very end. Maya listened, offering tissues, terrible wine from the gallery's small refrigerator, and the kind of presence that required no words. "This is why I can't sleep during the day," Sophia said eventually, curled up on Maya's small couch with her head resting against Maya's shoulder. "The quiet lets everything in." Maya looked down at Sophia's profile, at the curve of her cheek, the way her eyelashes cast shadows in the soft gallery lighting. Without thinking, she began stroking Sophia's hair, and felt, rather than saw, Sophia melt into the touch. "Stay here tonight," Maya whispered. "I mean, today. Whatever. Just don't go home to that empty apartment." Sophia lifted her head to meet Maya's eyes. "Are you sure?" Maya's answer came in the form of leaning down and pressing the softest kiss to Sophia's forehead. "I'm sure." 1 month later, Maya stood in her gallery, surrounded by her most personal work to date, watching strangers examine pieces of her soul that she'd hung on white walls. The unspoken words collection represented everything she'd been too afraid to say out loud: her fear of vulnerability, her longing for connection, her growing feelings for a certain night shift nurse who had become the center of her universe. The opening was going well. Red dots appeared next to several pieces. Critics nodded approvingly. And Maya's mentor from art school had already texted her congratulations. But none of it mattered, because Sophia was supposed to be there, and Sophia was nowhere to be seen. Maya checked her phone for the 15th time in as many minutes. Sophia's last text had come at 7 p.m. Double shift ended up being a triple. "I'm going to try my best to make it, but if I don't, know that I'm there in spirit and so proud of you." It was now 9:30, and Maya had given up hope. She was making polite conversation with a collector when she heard the gallery door chime, and her heart stopped. Sophia stood in the doorway, still in her scrubs, hair pulled back in a messy bun, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. But she'd come. Maya excused herself and crossed the room, not caring who noticed her urgency. "You came," Maya breathed. "I wouldn't miss this," Sophia said, reaching out to straighten Maya's black dress with gentle hands. "You look beautiful, by the way, like you belong in one of your own paintings." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. Over the past month, their relationship had deepened into something that felt too precious to name. They'd shared dozens of conversations, countless cups of coffee, and exactly 3 kisses, soft, careful things that left Maya wanting more, but afraid to push. "Come on," Maya said, taking Sophia's hand. "Let me show you everything." They moved through the gallery slowly, Sophia studying each piece with the intensity Maya had come to love. She paused longest at a painting called 3 a.m. Thoughts, swirls of deep purple and gold that Maya had created thinking about their late-night conversations. "This one's about me, isn't it?" Sophia asked quietly. Maya felt her breath catch. "How did you know?" "Because I recognized the feeling. It's the same way I feel when I think about you at 3 in the morning during my breaks." Sophia turned to face her fully. "Maya, we need to talk." They found a quiet corner near the back of the gallery, away from the crowd that had gathered around Maya's centerpiece, a painting she still hadn't named, all warm golds and soft pinks that she'd never used before Sophia entered her life. "I've been thinking," Sophia began, her voice soft but determined, "about us, about what we're doing here." Maya's heart clenched. "Sophia, let me finish," Sophia said, reaching for Maya's hands. "I've been thinking about how I told you I left Sarah because I was performing happiness instead of feeling it. And I've been thinking about how different this feels, how real this is." Maya stared at their joined hands, afraid to hope. "I know we've been careful," Sophia continued, "dancing around this thing between us because it's scary and new, and we both have reasons to be cautious. But Maya, I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of pretending that what I feel for you is just friendship." Maya looked up to find Sophia's eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm falling in love with you," Sophia whispered. "Actually, I think I've already fallen." and I need to know if there's any chance you feel the same way." The gallery faded around them. Maya could hear laughter and conversation, the clink of wine glasses, but all that mattered was the woman standing in front of her, offering her heart like a gift. "Sophia," Maya whispered, cupping her face gently, "I've been in love with you since the day you walked in here and understood my painting better than I did." Sophia's smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds, and Maya couldn't wait another second. She leaned forward and kissed Sophia right there in the middle of her gallery opening, soft and sweet and full of all the words they'd been too afraid to say. Around them, the room seemed to approve with warm applause, but Maya barely heard it. All she could focus on was the way Sophia tasted like coffee and possibility, the way her hands trembled as they found Maya's waist, the way this moment felt like coming home to a place she'd never known she was looking for. When they broke apart, both breathless and grinning, Sophia laughed through her tears. "So, what should we call that painting now?" she asked, nodding toward the golden canvas Maya had never been able to name. Maya looked over at her masterpiece, then back at the woman who had walked into her life and changed everything. "How about When Hearts Collide?" "Perfect," Sophia whispered, and kissed her again. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations, sales, and stolen glances between them. Maya found herself gravitating toward Sophia throughout the night, drawn by an invisible thread that seemed to connect them even across a crowded room. Every time their eyes met, Maya felt that same collision of fate that had started this whole beautiful mess. When the last guest finally left and Maya locked the gallery door, they were alone with the art and the weight of everything that had changed between them. "So what happens now?" Sophia asked, helping Maya collect empty wine glasses. "Now," Maya said, setting down her armload of glasses to pull Sophia close, "we figure out what it looks like to stop being careful. We learn how to love each other out loud." Sophia's smile was soft and wondering. "I like the sound of that." They spent the next hour cleaning up in comfortable silence, working around each other like they'd been doing this dance for years instead of weeks. When everything was finally put away, Maya found herself reluctant to say goodbye, to let Sophia walk out into the night and back to her empty apartment. "Come upstairs with me," Maya said, gesturing toward the narrow staircase that led to her loft apartment above the gallery. "I'll make you actual good coffee, and we can talk about everything we've been too scared to say." Sophia's answer came in the form of lacing their fingers together. "Lead the way." Maya's apartment was small, but warm, filled with canvases in various stages of completion and windows that let in the city lights. She made coffee in her new machine while Sophia explored, touching surfaces and asking questions about the paintings that covered nearly every wall. "You live inside your art," Sophia observed, stopping in front of a canvas Maya had painted the week after they'd met. Swirls of burgundy and gold that she now realized looked exactly like Sophia's hair in candlelight. "I used to," Maya corrected, joining her with 2 mugs of properly made coffee, "but now I think I'm ready to live inside something bigger." They talked until dawn, curled up together on Maya's couch, sharing dreams and fears and plans for a future that suddenly seemed possible. When Sophia finally fell asleep against Maya's shoulder, exhausted from her triple shift and the emotional intensity of the night, Maya stayed awake, watching her breathe, painting this moment into her memory, in colors that didn't exist in any palette. 6 months later, Sophia moved into the loft above the gallery, bringing her terrible cooking skills, her collection of vintage books, and a love that transformed Maya's solitary artist's life into something richer than she'd ever imagined. They painted together on weekends, Sophia's steady hands learning to translate emotion into color under Maya's patient guidance. They learned each other's rhythms, Maya's creative bursts and Sophia's compassionate exhaustion, and found ways to care for each other through both. The painting When Hearts Collide hung in their bedroom, a daily reminder that sometimes the most beautiful accidents are actually destiny finding its way home. Love has a way of finding us when we least expect it, in the spaces between our carefully constructed plans and in the moments when we're brave enough to be vulnerable. Maya and Sophia's story reminds us that the heart recognizes its match long before the mind catches up, and that sometimes the most profound connections happen when we stop performing and start feeling. Ready to dive deeper into stories of authentic love and connection? Follow for more tales that celebrate the beautiful complexity of finding your person in an unexpected moment. Because love isn't just about the destination, it's about having the courage to let your heart collide with possibility.